Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the PetaPixel Podcast. I know Chris was in his room last week, but I've been in my room for a really long time, like a month. So it's refreshing to be back. How are y'all doing?
Wait, I don't understand what you just said. Yeah.
I don't either. That makes no sense.
What do you mean?
Like, how's everybody doing this week?
Oh, the last podcast
I'm
you were in a
happy.
hotel room.
Yeah, and then we didn't do one for like 2 weeks before that. So
Right,
it's been
and we didn't do one
a
last
very
week
long
either.
time. Yeah, it's been
so
a long time.
confused.
That's all I'm saying. I thought it was
right.
very clear, profoundly clear. Listeners, let me know if that intro was clear.
It was incredibly confusing. Yeah, we're back.
Okay,
we're back.
that's Chris, who's very confused. Chris Nichols, and the other confused person is
I'm
Jaron
Jaron
Schneider.
Yeah,
I mean,
hello.
that's 2 out of 3. We're in the
I'm
majority.
not confused. I know exactly
Majority
what's going
rules.
on this pod.
We'll give you all a little bit more information of what we were up to in that segment of the podcast later on. But this week we've got Google Pixel stuff to talk about. We got
Smartphone season has begun, Jaron.
It has indeed. We've got 2 of the product managers for the Google Pixel devices, specifically on the camera side, who are joining us this week on the podcast for the main segment. And Sarah Tang is also joining us for the main segment because she is the one who did her hands-on, and we published that earlier this week.
So many boxes. Get excited for the most box-filled interview you've ever seen.
I actually have to redesign the way that the boxes go in Photoshop before I lay that into Premiere. I don't have that many boxes created
Well,
yet.
we would have said, like, why would we ever need a template for that many boxes? That would be madness. That would be
people
pandemonium.
is insane.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's
Pretty
basically
much
like
fun.
all your Zoom meeting calls that you had to go through during COVID. It's going to bring you right back to a wonderful time in our lives.
But as well, we've been dodging a bunch of pods, so we got tons of news to talk about as well, right, Jaron?
Yes. I'm not even going to do a summary. I'm going to surprise everyone. There's just a lot. Not quite as many as the last pod because there's not as much happened, but there's still plenty to discuss, like lots.
But I know why everyone listens to this podcast, and it's for the opening where I ask you guys for a little bit of information about yourself, get to know you a little better, and our audience gets to know everyone better as well. So everyone wins. And I have to say, I was laughing to myself because here's a spoiler for later in the episode. We were in Alaska, and we were flying back from Alaska. And right when you get cell service again, everyone pulls out their phone. And I was laughing to myself because the 2 dudes on either side of me had pictures for their backgrounds of them holding gigantic fish. And then I was like, that's
why we do it.
hilarious. I'm going to now eavesdrop on the seats in front of me. And the one dude on the left, same thing, him holding giant fish. And then the other guy, who's clearly a real wife dude, had him and who I assume is his spouse, both holding giant fish as their phone's background. So definitely there's a demographic moving in and out of Alaska is something that I learned from this. But I'm curious. I don't even know. What is your smartphone's background?
Oh, interesting. Before I answer that, our flight was actually delayed out of Sitka because of too much fish.
I saw that.
They're like, there's
Like-
too much checked fish, guys. This is a real problem.
We were delayed for 45 minutes because,
hour.
and they're like, I didn't expect the pilot's like, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't expect it to take so long to load all this fish. So I think we had a flight with the most successful anglers of all time, Jordan. That's why you saw so many fish photos. And these guys are all bringing back 150 pounds of meat or something. And yeah, that was fun.
I was on a later flight because that flight was too full. There's 100% capacity. Couldn't
Too
put
full
a
of
flight on
fish.
it.
Too many
Yeah.
fish?
And people. And so I went out later, and so I was standing on the tarmac, and I was talking to an airline employee, and I was like, "So I heard there's a lot of fish on that last flight," and she was like, "Yeah, that took a really long time to
Really
load.
long time.
Like even with the expectation that they always load fish out of Sitka, like they've been doing it, and that's how they roll. There was like that was there was a lot of fish.
Too much fish. Yeah. I love actually that the airport in Seattle, for example, has a deep freeze just for storing fish because they know that this happens.
Yes.
Anyways, to answer your question, Jordan, I do not, as you probably think I got a fish on my load screen. I do not.
I was
do
assuming.
not. No, I have a shot, and I change it periodically. I should probably change it again, but I have a shot from, I believe it would be when we were down in Kanagawa in Japan, and we were at we saw the big Buddha and everything, and it was really cool. We visited some temples, and I got a picture of a young lady dressed as in traditional sort of yukata wear.
Oh, I remember that.
A kimono. Yeah, and she's
Was
in
I
a
with you?
bamboo forest, and I have it in black and white, and so that's still my load screen, and I like it.
Yeah, you've
But
used
no,
that one for a while.
Yeah, I should change it, but she's not carrying a fish. There are pictures of fish in my phone, but I don't
some
use
of
them as load screens.
Using the latest advancements on Pixel phones, you could add a fish into her hands if you wanted to and improve that photograph.
I could. I hear also it's really cool. Women really like it. For example, if men have pictures of themselves on Tinder with large fish and
that's an immediate that dude's a catch.
Yeah, literally, right? Yeah. So I assume that these guys are all going to hook up if they're single or not.
Hook.
Oh boy,
He's on fire and doesn't know it.
All those
oh
puns.
boy.
So I just changed mine for I want to say 7-8 months. It was Gundam
It'd be me
Ariel.
holding a fish.
It was an official artwork from Gundam of Gundam Ariel from Mercury. But while in Alaska, I took a picture that I really liked, and I swapped it. Let's see if I can get that to show.
Oh, the big waterfall there.
Yeah, it's a waterfall
Yes.
near a glacier, and so I just changed
Nice.
my phone, and all the icons are black and white now. So I mean, it looks really neat. So
What a classy phone.
That said, I still have Gundam on the back. So
I hear pictures of Gundam is also super popular on the dating sites.
That's the
if I
second
was sitting in one,
biggest green flag.
and if I looked as though I had childhood trauma due to the fact that my parents dragged me into a war, then I do think that would indeed be. This is Gundam themed for anyone who doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Jaron was not.
Oh
dragged
man,
into
we're
war.
getting
He-
some backstory here.
He was not a
Gundam.
teenage robot mecha freedom fighter as much as he
right.
loves if he could have been, but he was not. No.
Okay, well,
So I started using Google's new or Apple's new tool where you can choose people and it'll cycle every hour your background picture. Like right now, look, there's my beautiful wife. That rocks. And it cycles it every hour. So I said, hey, Apple, the 3 people I want on my phone are my wife, Evelyn, my son, Liam, and my daughter, Ivy. Can you just cycle through those for me? And constantly, my background is Chris. And I think the phone is just like, there's no reason you would keep taking photos and videos of this guy if he wasn't your family or lover or whatever. So just like the other day, I was like taking the airplane back and it's like, oh, there's his face holding up a Nikon Z5 II. Perfect. I'm glad we've got that.
Do you think the Apple thing could also do that for me, holding all the different fish that I've caught? Like, could I have it like, hey, Apple, cycle through the brown trout that I had, then the lake trout, and then
there's gonna be a new iPhone this
grayling
year. I think you need to
like-
request it.
Yes. That's what I want. And then just see all like cycling of fish pictures. That would be the ideal.
Jordan,
then I'd post them.
if it makes you feel better, my phone only recognizes a couple of things on my device, and one of them is Chris as like faces. It doesn't see my dog. Nope. It sees Chris. It's like, hey, this is the important
as it
one
should
to you.
be.
And he's
We're all
number one on
trapped
the
in the
list.
same hell.
My dream is that all the viewers will one day have pictures of me on their load screens as well.
I guess we should start this podcast, huh?
Oh my God. All right. Before we get into the news, I do want to remind everyone that the best way to support the 3 of us is to get a PetaPixel membership. And the thing is, I'm not just going to ask you to hand over $3 a month or $30
This
a
isn't
year.
a GoFundMe.
No. You don't have to do that for nothing.
You're going to get something for
That's
that
right.
hard cash.
You're going to get a lot of things.
Yeah.
If you are planning on purchasing a used camera or lens, there is quite literally no reason to not have a PetaPixel membership. Unless you're buying something that costs under $25 or something like that, which I don't know that there's much on KEH that you can do that with, that you will want. you're going to miss out on a significant discount. All PetaPixel members get 5% off all of their purchases, qualifying. There's some exceptions, but all qualified used camera and lens purchases on KEH.com. Now, 5% off doesn't sound like a lot, but it is certainly more than $3 a month or $30 a year, especially if you buy a couple of things every year. So that's already one major benefit, but I'm not done.
That's a good one. What? No, impossible.
What if I said also you'd get $15 off your first purchase at Moment, where they have lots of things from filters to cameras. $15 off is already 5 months, right? Yeah, 5 months.
I don't know, man.
I'm really bad at math. 5 months worth of a PetaPixel membership, you get that immediately. So you get your money back basically instantly.
People don't come here for the math. They come here for the camera.
They better not, because I'm certainly a bad source for that. Beyond that, you get 25% off purchases at the PetaPixel merch store, which is great. Yep. Yeah. Jordan's got one of our latest shirts on there, Film on Location You Coward. That's available also in black and white. I believe. I can't been to the store in a while. Someone should go to the store and look.
The staff at the rental house in Portland loved this shirt. They're like, hell yeah, no more filming in volumes. So it found its audience.
You also, if you want to stay in the loop on the latest camera news, read Chris's reviews, read Jordan's reviews, read Sarah's reviews, read my reviews and opinions and editorials, you can do that ad-free when you get a PetaPixel membership. But I'm still not done. There's
we don't have all day, Jaron. There can't be any more benefits.
You also get access to our sample galleries, where we upload the full galleries along with, for lenses, test charts, and on cameras, ISO ramps for all of the latest cameras and lenses that we test. That is also available to members. So I'm not asking for much, but we would be able to do quite a bit more with our site. We can reduce the number of ads we show. We can make sure that our content is free of the capitalist folks who constantly want to get their stuff in our hands. If you guys, more of you signed up for PetaPixel membership.
We love those capitalist folks. Come on now.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever the case.
My feelings are mixed.
A PetaPixel membership is helpful to us by a lot.
It's a great deal for you guys, and it helps us. It's a win-win, win-win-win, triple wins all over the place.
So check it out. Link in the description below. We'd really appreciate your support. I know that many of you already do.
Yeah.
But those of you who have been thinking about how can we help Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake even more, that's how you do it. And with that, we're going to talk about the death of Abode.
Yeah, speaking of people who thought that they were fighting the capitalist hierarchy by creating
and were crushed under its heel.
That would be the everyman's software for a way lower price and would break us out of the sort of shackles of being attached to subscription-based photo editing. It turned out that they were also just a big scam.
So, shocker to anyone with eyes, but this never looked as though it was ever going to happen. Over 2 years ago, he's kind of just like an internet personality who would just take stands on stuff. He would be an activist in various things. Decided that he was I'm gonna try and get a Kickstarter going for an alternative to Adobe, and we're gonna call it Abode, the new home for your creativity. Get it?
It's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Pretty funny.
Chris insisted on calling it Abode.
It's Abode.
The guy's name is Stuart Semple, and well, they raised like $360,000 to do this. And that sounds like a lot, but that was never going to be enough. And it turns out that the development of this software was never smooth. There was a big blow up that was mostly on Reddit after the developer that Semple hired to do it kind of revealed what was going on behind the scenes. Each of them are saying it's the other's fault. At any rate,
like the only developer is, they don't specifically say it, but that's kind of the impression.
Isn't that insane?
That's madness.
One person could develop an entire suite of photo and video editing tools to compete with Adobe inside of a year, 2 years, even 3 years on just that budget.
Yeah.
Wild. Anyway, it failed. That's never
They're
happened.
going at each other, but the real losers are the people who put money into Kickstarter because they're not going to get anything out of it.
All gone.
And,
they got a rad sweatshirt.
It's all gone.
Did they? Did they actually get their sweatshirts? I want to know. Did you back Abode? Did you get your sweatshirt? Because I thought about getting one simply for the irony that I could wear an Abode. Yeah, I should have done it, but I'm actually not sure anyone got their sweaters.
But the sad thing is, like, the people responding to this Kickstarter and funding this program weren't really necessarily doing it so that they could get something from themselves, like a new software package. They were really trying to, like, help create a project that's going against all of this subscription-based stuff and kind of, sticking it to the man a little bit and trying to make something that everybody could enjoy, without having to be shackled by this stuff. And yeah, they're going to get nothing. Nobody's going to get anything. And Reddit's happy. I'm sure the algorithm's just like, woohoo.
Do you think the software developer also had to like screen print the sweaters as well? And that might be why they haven't gotten out there yet. Like, well, in between coding software sessions, could you make me some sweatshirts as well?
But it's really sad. I mean, this whole program was dubious, and we commented on it quite a bit. And is this like an avant-garde piece of artwork? Is this a political statement and activism kind of thing, or is it trying to make a software with grassroots beginnings? And what it really turns out to be is just sad trash. So
I believe that we can close this book on Abode. I don't foresee us needing to speak about it again.
We'll never need to visit this Abode again.
That is correct. Goodbye, Abode.
Yeah.
You have died. Moving on. It was a bit of a weird week last week while we were out of the office. Kodak published I don't know what to say what it was. I guess it was in their earnings report. The quote in there that sent it reverberated through all news outlets, including CNN, who initially reported it, that Kodak said that it was not confident it had the financing or available liquidity to cover its massive debts. Which conditions
are about $500 million.
Yeah, so much. Yeah. Quote, these conditions raise substantial doubt about the company's ability to continue as a growing concern. However, so that sounded bad.
Not good.
But
not
then,
good, Bob.
And of course, your stocks drop and everything. Yeah.
But here's the thing. Kodak put out a statement like a day or two later, and they also responded to PetaPixel when we asked them about it. And they said, no, they're actually confident it will be able to pay off a significant portion of its term loan well before it becomes due and amend, extend, or refinance its remaining debt and or preferred stock obligations. Which is super confusing. I'm not really sure why their initial statement said they had doubt that they could do it, but now they're saying, but we also don't have doubt that we can do it, and we have no plans of going out of business. I'm happy with the latter because I love Ektar, and I'd love to try Ektachrome. That's another camera on my list of things to try, or another film on my list of to try in the next couple of weeks. But like, super strange. Apparently, they're going to be okay.
They say they're canceling their pension fund. They're terminating it after covering the pension fund participants. I don't know what those obligations would be, but they're basically going to shut down their pension plan. So that's where they're getting the assets, a large part of the assets that they need to then cover these debts.
I mean, Christopher Nolan's out shooting the Odyssey on full IMAX cameras, the entire feature. That's got to be $500 million of profit for Kodak right there, the amount of film that's going to go through those giant machines. So just run on that. I do think the timing is weird because I feel like, we touched on like Huff and Kodak doing apparel together and stuff like that. Like it seems like Kodak is just teetering on the brink of being like a really trendy brand right now. And I think if they can hold on for a little while, they could absolutely ride this wave. Film is very cool. I feel like they're kind of on the way here. So it would be a real shame if they shut things down right at this point where I feel it's a real turnaround for them.
Yeah, it's odd. So here's what the quote is here from a blog post they wrote in response to the reports. Media reports that Kodak is ceasing operations, going out of business, or filing for bankruptcy are inaccurate and reflect a fundamental misunderstanding of a recent technical disclosure the company made to the SEC in its recently filed second quarter earnings report. These articles are misleading and missing critical context, and we'd like to set the record straight. To the contrary, Kodak is confident it will repay, extend, or refinance its debt, and preferred stock on or before its due date. When the transactions we have planned are completed, which is expected to be early next year, Kodak will have a stronger balance sheet than we have had in years and will be virtually net debt-free.
Okay. I don't understand how capitalism works, guys. Sure. So rock on.
As I want Kodak to continue as a company. So if they're saying they feel confident they're going to do it while simultaneously saying they doubt that they can do it, sure, whatever. I'll take the first one. I'm confident too.
Grab another roll of Ektar just in case.
I have some.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you all recall,
Yashica.
Chris had a lovely experience with a City 100 camera from Yashica.
It was fine. Yashica.
Earlier this year.
Oh,
in
yeah, it
Austin.
fell apart, though. But other than that, it was fine.
Well,
I believe
just
we
the
called
lens
that
cap.
video Scamera, if I remember.
Yeah.
Well, look, man, they're going to try and win you over with a third camera option because the City 100 and the City 200 were the first two. You didn't see the City 200, which is fine. They have now announced a compact 50 megapixel, $420 City 300 camera, which they say will fix some of the flaws of
Fixed
the
lens.
previous ones. So, yeah, it's a fixed lens,
Yeah, 50 megapixels.
type 1 over 1.56
That wouldn't be a
image
quad
sensor.
Bayer by any chance, would it? Would that happen to be a
Probably.
smartphone
Yes.
sensor, possibly?
Yeah, type
That 50 megapixel beast in there?
But, it's interesting that we've got image stabilization. We've got 50 megapixels. Yes, probably quad Bayer. But the trend for having compact little lenses is pretty cool right now.
So it has IBIS this time. That's cool.
Yeah, OIS, I think, or like optical image stabilization, it says. on
It
the
says
lens.
in-body. It says
Really?
in-body image stabilization.
Dang,
if it's a fixed
bro,
lens,
they're-
then an OIS is technically in the body.
yeah, and shoots raw photos. I mean, that's cool. So we have this option for something that gives us a little bit more capability.
Yeah. All right, moving on. This one is, I don't know, interesting, sad, both. I know that
Bummer, man.
I know Alex Mitchell, our friend and sound man, he didn't like this at all, but Arri is considering selling amid what they're calling a challenging cinema landscape, probably because their cameras are really expensive and they only sell a couple of them to rental houses, and then that's it. Like that's their market. So I'm wondering if they just can't cover their costs anymore. What do you think, Jordan?
Well, I think it's a few things. I think definitely there's a low volume. Like, I don't know many people that are owner-operators of Arri cameras. The other thing is they make awesome products. Like, if someone showed up and was like, we're shooting a feature film this week, and they're like, great, I've got an Alexa Mini, we'd be like, perfect, cutting-edge camera. That thing came out 10 years ago. So I do think there's definitely a factor of just, yes, you don't need to update these things very often. They're industry-standard workhorses. You don't sell a ton of them. And the same applies, like, they've expanded into a lot of other areas, but same thing with their lighting. You grab a Sky panel, that's been out for more than a decade now. Again, industry standard lighting stuff that just doesn't break, which is the amazing thing about Arri.
Yeah.
It's designed for not to ever fail on movie sets where every minute is a fortune. But also it means inevitably there's going to be not a ton of sales, and it must cost a fortune for support on that. If an Arri camera goes down, you are, overnighting a replacement immediately. So yes, their business model is just very expensive, which is why the cameras are so expensive, but it's also clearly difficult to sustain. But I think there needs to be a benchmark in every industry, and Arri really is in the cinema world. Like, these are expensive cameras that are designed to be as reliable and the highest quality. I think it's important that that's there. And if they sell to another company, the immediate response is going to be, how can we cut costs here and make this thing profitable again? Which means the quality is going to drop. And that's what Alex and I were so concerned about when this news came out. I don't want to see another camera brand get, shaken down for parts, essentially.
Yeah.
So we'll see. They do have like a bunch of new exciting cameras. Their new chip is unbelievably good. But again, how many of them are they selling when a lot of rental houses are going to be like, yeah, man, we've still got some Alexa LFs and minis and stuff like that. That's sufficient for most Hollywood production.
Plus, there's so much competition, right? Everybody else, like lighting. I mean, I remember Arri lighting used to be a big deal, and it was a very popular brand. But like, I can't imagine many people buy it anymore when you've got so many good options that are more affordable, and then cameras too.
Aperture does so much there. Like, they're pushing hard in the cinema.
Yeah.
I'm sure they took a huge chunk out of Arri's market share. And then you've also got other camera brands now that Red was of course a big one, right? I mean, they had their go, and everybody else is making cinema cameras now. And so I feel like, Sony,
The Venice and the Burano.
Yep.
Yeah. Those are all over on sets now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I think it's got to be tough. It's got to be tough for them.
I mentioned that I think there is someone who might now be interested in purchasing Arri who wasn't interested before, and that's Canon.
Yeah.
Because I think they are internally still furious about the Red situation. They felt blindsided by that, and to go to Nikon probably was extremely angering to them. So, like, if there's any company who's going to do it simply to just be like, well, yeah, so can we, it will be Canon, just to respond to Nikon.
You think so? Yeah.
Well, that's all they do in those companies. Nikon, Canon, and Sony are in buildings that I don't even think they can see each other, but they're in Tokyo, and they're constantly comparing themselves to each other. That's like just how it is there.
Yeah.
And that purchase of Red cannot have gone over well inside of Canon. They've been very good at publicly speaking about it, but I doubt it was that nice inside.
Regardless, it was a smart move on Nikon's part. So, it makes sense that a camera company would then acquire a resource like Arri and all the technology that goes with that and everything. Yeah, could be interesting.
But then to Jordan's point, they're going to immediately want to try and become profitable with that. And the purchase of Arri is going to be more than what Nikon paid for Red.
Yes.
So,
unquestionably.
We'll all right, moving on. We knew it was coming because they teased it, but Antigravity, which is the incubation project for drones that was started inside of Insta360, finally announced what their first drone would be. It's the Antigravity A1, and it is a 360 drone camera with a unique control scheme. So rather, for those listening who haven't seen it, I'll describe it to you. Currently, drones from DJI, for example, and any other drone company, we're using an RC car style controller, a video game style controller even, where you have two thumbsticks in a box that you hold in both hands. What Antigravity did instead was they compressed it into a single hand that responds to not only where you're pointing that and how you're pointing it, but then it uses goggles, which also can tell what direction you're pointing. So as you move and move your hand, your view inside the camera responds. So I got a chance to pilot one of these, an early prototype one, a couple of months ago. I went down to LA and I flew it. And when we were discussing before, like Jordan, you were concerned that having an immersive 360 experience would be really unsettling, and you wouldn't like know how you were standing or where the drone was necessarily facing. The way that they've figured that out is in the HUD, the heads-up display, you get a directionality of the drone, you get a second camera that shows you directionality of drone, and there's like a map that shows what direction you're facing compared to the drone, and the route the drone took from where you are. So it actually was extremely easy to tell where I was. And I think the one thing that makes this different is the experience of flying in Antigravity makes you feel like you're actually flying it, which is super neat. Now, the footage is basically what we've come to expect out of Insta360 cameras. So you know what that looks like. It's not to the level of what a lot of DJI's cameras are, but this is a drone that might actually just be fun to fly around.
Wow. How much vomiting?
None.
What?
That's going to be a recurring theme in this podcast, is how little Jaron is vomiting.
It's true, actually. In this case, so I don't know if anyone has played, this is the best reference I can make. In Apex Legends, which is a video game, when you jump from a high point, the way the game expresses that to you is with sound and like the lines of air moving. And that combination actually does cause my stomach to drop just a little bit. So I can feel it when my character jumps out. It's just weird. It's just that perfect combination of sound and visuals. Because there's no like, whoa, and that when the drone is coming down, I never felt as though I were actually falling. So it never upset my internal equilibrium.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Cool.
And you
Well, I
look
guess
cool
we
while
gotta
you
try
use
it then.
this. Yeah.
The goggles are also super light. Like they were very easy to wear. Like I wasn't uncomfortable while wearing it. I wouldn't say they were the highest resolution. They were good, but they weren't like incredible. I mean, like Vision Pro is better.
Neat.
Yeah. But yeah, it's neat. It's a neat thing. I think this is a neat toy. I don't know. The footage to be captured from it is going to be interesting just because I just don't love the sensors they're using in the X Series 360 cameras. But, it's a thing.
Cool. And it's affordable.
Hey, you know what else is kind of nerdy like Apex Legends? Anime.
Yeah. What a transition. Go for it,
Is it
Chris.
anymore, or is it just pop culture?
It's
We can
pop
debate
culture.
this
I don't know.
later. Yeah,
It's
I don't
pop
think it's
culture.
nerdy anymore.
It's
I
not.
think
It was nerdy when
the dominant
it was
culture.
nerdy when I was a kid.
Yeah, people like you, Chris, would beat up kids like me who liked anime. But go on.
No, because I watched anime, but I watched it when it was cool. You know what I mean? I watched anime when it was like hard to find and you had to seek it out.
it wasn't
So
cool then.
uncool.
Yeah, it was uncool.
It was uncool. Yeah, totally. It was super uncool. But
Anyway.
people watched it. Anyways, you know what's cool is My Dress Up Darling. I've never seen. I have no idea.
Have you ever heard of this manga and anime?
Explain the premise.
Well, first off, the premise for naming an anime is you just come up with any silly statement and it makes the title for an anime. So, like, I don't
A
know.
lot of them are very funny. They're like straight up
Yeah.
sentences. But
Yeah,
this one,
exactly.
My Dress Up Darling, is a slice of life romance.
Of course,
anime.
you know.
Of course, I know. I'm tuned in. I don't watch it, but I'm aware
It's
of
a
it.
rom-com.
Jaron's got his finger on the pulse of the community, Chris.
That's right.
Yeah, it's true. It's a rom-com. Yeah.
So this is incredibly popular. So this is one of the most popular anime in the world. It's I checked on Crunchyroll. It's number 7 overall, all anime, of which there's
Wow.
so many, and it's easily number 1 in slice of life by like a lot. People like this one quite a bit.
But they like
More or less popular than Friends.
nothing is
Globally?
as popular as Friends. Come on.
Globally, I
Nothing
don't
is as
know.
popular as Friends. No,
Anyway.
Friends is huge. Anyways,
The concept is it follows a growing romance between Wakana Gojo, who is a skilled costumer, and Marin Kitagawa, who is a cosplayer. And so like he makes her cosplays. And so of course you got to take pictures when you're cosplaying, and he would typically do that on a smartphone. But in this latest episode, she buys a Canon Kiss M, which I'd like to point out you
SM50.
can't actually buy anymore, which is the only weird part of all this. At any rate, there's a
Right.
5-minute segment in this episode near the end where it's like hardcore Canon featured. Which
yeah,
is,
they go to the mode dial. They go to like
Portrait
branding, lens
mode.
mounts, everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So this was obviously Canon had to pay for this, but given that it's not a camera Canon would be marketing right now, I have a feeling it was kind of mixed. Like I think the anime director and the writer of the manga just like this camera, which they should. People loved the M series mirrorless cameras, and they just were like, "We'd like to feature it," and Canon was like, "Sure," and then the publisher of the anime, which is Square Enix, was like, "That'll be X dollars, Canon, for that." But they get to put their logo in an anime, which is not unprecedented, but very rare.
Right. By the way, also played all the Square Enix games back when they were cool, and now it's
Yeah.
all commonplace.
It's Final
but I played
Fantasy
them back
for
when they were cool.
folks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you go.
So I do think it actually makes sense because the M series cameras were so much more popular specifically in Japan than anywhere else in the world. Like those cameras are ubiquitous. We know from walking around there. Like people are waving around the M50s, M6.2s. They're everywhere. So it makes sense even just for the narrative of the show. Like what's the camera everyone has over there?
I think it makes sense given that like anime fans love cosplay. They like recreating anime battles. They like, doing all this kind of making their own content on YouTube. And so I think the anime crowd is actually really into cameras, like beyond the smartphone. They're really into photographic cameras, changing lenses, even doing studio lighting setups and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a smart, even if it's not a current camera, it's smart for Canon to have their name in a popular anime like this. It's their target audience. So yeah, I'm surprised that nobody else has really jumped on board that.
Yeah, cool, good stuff. Next thing on the list is that Sigma had some announcements.
Yes.
We
We have a video out. You should all watch
By the
it.
time this is released, we'll have 2 videos out, I believe. Right, Jaron?
You should watch them both.
Wait, will you?
Maybe. I don't know. I thought so.
No.
Okay.
It's
never
coming
mind.
regardless.
Yeah. So the 200 review is out. The 12 millimeter is coming this weekend.
Okay.
So those are the two lenses: a Sigma 12-1.4 for 12 millimeter f1.4 for the APS-C cameras.
APS-C, yeah.
The very first 200 millimeter f2 for mirrorless cameras.
Full frame mirrorless. Everybody's saying
mirrorless.
Fujifilm made a 200 f2. It's equivalent to a 300 2.8.
Yeah. Thank you, Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Anyway, Chris, give the folks your thoughts briefly, but
Sure.
encourage them to watch the review nonetheless.
Yeah, watch the review. We got to shoot a baseball game here locally in Okotoks. It was really cool. We got great access, and it's a remarkably versatile lens. I mean, I liked always using them on DSLRs, but that was way back in the day, and they were super heavy and expensive. This is expensive, but not like those lenses were, not even close. And great for portraits, great for like if you've got distance, like full body stuff where the compression is just so flat and they look stark against the background. Beautiful bokeh, fast focusing, kept up with the action, super rugged for any rain. Like, it's a neat lens. Should announce, though, that I'll say it right here, is that we stated that although it does not use Sony like the Sony mount doesn't use teleconverters, the L mount version does. It does not either. But we were told that information, weren't we, Jaron?
Yes, we were provided
specifically.
we specifically asked, we're told incorrect information. And then as soon as we were told that information was incorrect, we issued a correction to that. But we don't. So somebody also commented on this that you should review this on L mount lenses. Bruh, we get one lens to review, and typically Sigma sends us E mount. We don't actually get to pick. This is what they have.
Frankly, for shooting sports in action, I honestly wouldn't want to shoot it on L mount camera, and that's the fact. You know, Panasonic just doesn't quite have their autofocusing game together. So if I'm going to shoot this, even though an A7R5 is not ideal for sports, that's what I have, I would still prefer to shoot that because of the autofocusing performance. So there you go.
Yeah. So that should answer all questions involving the 200. Great lens. Sigma continues to kill it.
Very cool.
So
Sorry, I have one last question. I just cracked open this can of Coca-Cola, and Darth Maul is on it. It's not 1999. Like, what the hell is going on here? If anybody knows in the comments why my Coke can has Darth Maul's face on it from a movie that was released in the late 90s, I'm very curious.
Star Wars is timeless. And
He's been featured in.
Is he in one of the shows or something?
He
What
was
the
one
hell
of
is
the
going
only-
on? I don't know. I don't keep up with this anymore.
He was one of the cooler looking villains in an otherwise terrible trilogy of movies that inspired a whole bunch of kids to love Star Wars again.
He was in Rebels, and he was in, but that was still like 4 years ago.
And nobody
was
wants
also in
Kylo
Han
Ren
Solo.
on the can because he sucks. He's
I'm sorry for the
character.
digression. I am baffled. I
I'm
just
as
looked at this
confused as
can
you
and
as
I'm
a
just
Star
like,
Wars guy.
what?
Okay,
Anyway.
but if you saw Luke Skywalker on the can, you'd be like, "That's fine,
Yeah,
no problem."
I'd be like, okay, this is a
1970.
character that is still relevant, at this point.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Well, here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is, because that was weird, I'll just transition us to. Sadly, Fujifilm has announced that it will increase its prices again later this month because
another increase.
The last increase was it trying not to increase for a really long time, the last 10%. Unfortunately, they increased the prices because they were finally forced to, but then that was like the same day that the 15% tariff, which is an increase on the previous 10% tariff, went into effect, which means they were forced to raise them again. The actual amount is likely to be just a small amount since it's only 5% more.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll get that information later. But just so you know, Fujifilm didn't want to do this, and this only affects the United States, where we have a irritating tariff policy. But yeah, that's the update.
And I assume that Yashica's City 500, whenever they make it, will be $4,600. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Buy your Fujis as soon as possible, like Jaron did last podcast.
Yep. I got it. It's right here. Let me pull it out again.
Oh, what a pretty camera.
Oh, show off.
Even the leather case on it, too, and the thumb grip. I got it all now.
If only.
All right. And with that, the news is over. And we're going to transition to our interview with the folks at Google, and Sarah Teng will join us as well. Let's get to it. And here we are with Isaac Reynolds and Michael Specht, two of Google's experts on Pixel phones. We're also joined by Sarah Tang, who was on the ground in New York with, I believe, Michael, you were there.
That's right.
For her first look, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the Pixel in this very Brady Bunch-esque setup. There's a lot of us in here. This is the biggest one I've done so far. But I'm going to turn the floor over to start with to Isaac and Michael to sort of go over what they think photographers and videographers are going to care about the most with this new device. So guys, take it away for a bit, and then we'll get into some questions.
Yeah, I'll shout out a high-level strategy, which is I think all the photographers here know that the old saying is the best camera is the one that happens to be in your pocket when the moment happens in front of you. And I think that's a testament to how important not just the tool is, but the person wielding the tool. And one of the big things we found AI can do that it couldn't do before is these large models with large context windows are actually able to help teach you to be a better photographer. You can take the entire input of the preview, you can let them express some intent about what their goal is with the picture, and then it can walk you through step-by-step guidance to teach you, maybe you should zoom with your feet, try a longer focal length equivalent, get down on eye level and actually help you use the camera better than you could before. That's kind of a whole new area for us that will make a big, big difference for beginners and for me as a higher level hobbyist photographer as well. So it kind of runs the gamut. And then the second component of that, of course, is image and video quality. And I think Michael is the lead PM here for our image and video quality is probably the best person to speak about that component.
Yeah, I think in general, like if you think about camera development and our approach, like if you think about it kind of in the same way you might cook a recipe, you always want to start with the best ingredients, right? You get to that final dish at the end of it that is this beautiful plate of food that's delicious, and the kind of the best quality ingredients you can start with is your base quality for photo and video. So that final dish is kind of like those amazing features at the end. All those ingredients feed into how amazing that feature is at the end, just from a pure quality perspective. And then you build kind of the little pizzazz and plating and beautifulness on top of it that ends up with your kind of final feature and experience for the user. So in general, we really approach our development from, we always want to produce the best possible base quality to feed into everything else we do. So we take a look every year at, the whole hardware package, the silicon, the software, the pipeline. Even before we start talking about the experiences, we look at, improving color, performance, sharpness, texture, tuning. We relook, we reevaluate. And I think one thing we do really well too as a team and our strategy is we obviously have a bunch of experts that have opinions on how we go and develop our cameras, but we also take really, really good look at all the feedback that we're hearing from customers, experts in the industry, and figure out how we kind of incorporate all that into our camera development strategy in the end.
So that kind of leads into a question that I had, so I'll start. So in the design phase this year, what was Google's strategy for improving the photo and video capabilities of the camera systems, especially looking at the highest end ones you guys have done? Because that's typically where we decide, like, hey, this is what a company can do. They put it in their best work here. So, like, what were pieces in that you wanted to address versus last year's model, and do you feel as though you did so?
Yeah, I mean, let's take a quick step back, and I can do a tiny little recap over like the changes in hardware that we've had, and then move into kind of more of like the overall changes in strategy. So I know you mentioned Pro, but I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about our Pixel 10 base model as well, bringing our triple camera system to it for the first time. It's something that we've had a desire to do, and we've heard feedback from customers that tele captures at 5x and beyond are important to them. So we made that leap this year, introduced a 5x optical telephoto camera with 10x optical quality, allowing users to use super res zoom all the way up to 20x. And then on the Pro side, our main camera has a new upgraded OIS module, doubling the stroke range, which is great for stabilization. And you still get that amazing 50 megapixel capture at 1x and optical quality at 2x. We have a telephoto camera, 48 megapixel, providing 5x optical, 10x optical quality, and a maximum zoom now all the way up to 100x using ProRes zoom, which is a new feature this year. And we can talk a little bit more about that later. And then finally, we also decreased the minimum focus distance for our tele lens as well, down to 60 centimeters with autofocus. And then if you use our Pro controls with manual focus, go all the way down to 30 centimeters as well on the telephoto, which is a lot of fun. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, now might be a good time to mention it, that the new Pro zooming thing. Like, how does that work? I'm guessing it's using like Gemini in some way.
So our ProRes zoom isn't using Gemini. It's using another generative AI model on device. And I think one thing you asked, we're curious about was kind of like computation on device, for example. And this is a model that we worked really, really hard on. It's a fairly large model run fully on device with relatively low latency considering how large the actual model is. So we have Super Res Zoom. We shipped last year from 5x all the way up to 30x. And this year, we enable 30x all the way to 100x with our ProRes Zoom. So this is taking input at capture time, upscaling that, and really trying to help create images that look highly detailed, even at these super long ranges. And I think, Sarah, we got to test it out together in New York, which was a lot of fun. And I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is when we say 100x zoom, that's like 2400 millimeter equivalent. That's a lens that we actually, don't have in our camera bag ever, right? So it's a pretty fun thing to go and try and see. And the results are really quite impressive, especially considering it's run on device and with relatively low latency.
I'm curious about that because you mentioned that we're using an AI-based model to up-res all of this. But one of the big advantages of a smartphone is the super fast readout on that. So is it also stacking a bunch of telephoto images and combining that with an up-resing algorithm in order to get more detail? Or is it looking at a single exposure and applying it through software?
So it's a great question. So it runs through our whole HDR Plus imaging pipeline, multi-frame computational imaging pipeline. But the input into the model is towards the end of that HDR Plus pipeline. So it's multi-frame capture with single-frame input to the pipeline for ProRes Zoom.
Okay.
The other thing, by the way, I want to shout out is even a lot of folks who are big fans of cameras look at lens specs, aperture, all those top-level specs, tend to forget the role that the rest of the hardware plays beyond the sensor. ProRes Zoom is an outstanding example of when silicon makes an enormous difference. And the G5 in particular has a 60% more powerful TPU. To be very honest, the first versions of ProRes Zoom that we were running took almost 2 minutes to run on the device. And now it's down to literally just several seconds. And we really can't understate how complex the hardware package has become beyond sensors. I'll give you another one. The interconnect between the application processor tensor and the sensor. To get the sensor turned on, we have to push an enormous number of settings to the sensor. And it is so many settings that the old system called I2C took on the order of 100 milliseconds to push all that data. With I3C, it's down to about 10 milliseconds to push all that data. So there are lots of improvements surrounding these sensors that are tangible hardware level changes that just don't show up in the higher level tech specs that you might see when you're buying a professional camera on the internet. But these are smartphones and they are way more complex than a professional camera.
Chris, I know you're trying to talk, but your mic is muted. There you go.
Hi, guys. Good. Well, that means that I wasn't interrupting anybody with my blatant shout out. So I guess that leads me to a question that I think we're wondering about. And it's something that we're also seeing in the larger camera industry. And that is that sensor technology seems to be plateauing to some degree. And I think with smartphones, not just your brand, all the brands, we're seeing this sort of commonality where cameras aren't changing that much. Things aren't really growing that much bigger. Are there reasons for that? Have we reached a point where the only way to make the sensors bigger and cameras bigger would be to the actual phone physically larger? And is that why so much energy and time is now going into hardware based, but with AI upscaling and things like that to make this better, processing power improvements? Are we at the limit of what we can do right now for the actual sensor itself and lenses itself?
I mean, I see it a little bit differently than that, actually.
Okay.
I think if you look at like the industry in general, like even look at the dedicated camera industry, right? So we saw some new innovations within the last couple of years, like global shutter, or even like mass production of medium format sensors at a more affordable level. I wouldn't call them affordable, but more affordable level.
Right.
So you're seeing some kind of, innovation around this space and some trickle down technology to mobile as well in a smaller package, right? I think, in the Pixel 8 Pro podcast that Isaac did with you guys 2 years ago, we talked about, dual gain technology, or even like HDR video becoming common, or HDR photos becoming common. So we're seeing, some trickle down in sensor technology, and it is changing some. I think, it's only a piece of the pipeline as well. Like there are so many other advances that come along with that. And, on the mobile camera side, if you think about kind of the history of like camera technology going from film to digital, where, the first digital cameras were really trying to emulate film quality. And then we got to a point where digital cameras are outperforming film cameras. So the target is no longer film, it's beyond film. And we're seeing some of this too in the mobile industry, where mobile cameras originally were trying to target standalone camera quality. And with that, we've gone down this unique path of, intense processing, multi-capture, computational imaging, these things that, really still don't fully exist yet on dedicated camera in that world. So we're kind of uniquely positioned to not only push other parts of the technology and platform further along than maybe the dedicated camera industry is currently, but also, uniquely solve problems. And that's where a lot of the features come out of this, right? So like Auto Best Take this year, or Camera Coach, these are things that, it's problems that we're helping solve in a space that the standalone camera industry is really not even looking at today. And so I think there is, a hardware component with some trickle down technology, but there's like super innovation that's happening on the silicon software and, AI side that is really meaningful to a lot of people in their day-to-day lives, that they don't get that same kind of experience from a standalone camera.
So there's still this perception, whether or not you guys would agree. I mean, I sort of fall into this level of this perception, where the smartphone camera is still, there are things that it just cannot do to the same level that even a slightly larger sensor in a standalone camera can do. And a lot of it comes down to, like, I guess I can describe it best as vibes. Like, it just feels and looks different. But what that really means is that the sensors being larger can simply gather more light. And when you can gather more light, you can do more things. I'm curious if you guys see yourselves still, like you mentioned initially, the smartphone camera was trying to show or get as close as it could be to the larger digital camera. Do you still feel that way, or do you think these are parallel tracks?
I think it's some of both, right? I think like the goal isn't like full, like we want to copy everything that they're doing. Mm-hmm. In that sense, it's like we want to continue to advance image quality in general. And there is a physics aspect of this, right? Like there's no denying like sensor size, lens sizes. And this is like a parallel between the like digital camera and the film camera. They didn't struggle with the same, right? Like the physical sizes of those two realms were similar. And the mobile camera industry, is always going to be constrained to some extent by physics. With, you want a phone you can fit in your pocket, right? Above all, like this is supposed to be something that you carry with you everywhere. And if it doesn't fit in your pocket, then, it's going to be challenging to sell that as a whole package as a phone, not just a dedicated camera. So I do see this path of still trying to get around some of the physics problems. And, historically, Pixel has done a fairly good job with that with, the original introduction of computational imaging in the HDR Plus pipeline, or astrophotography on a mobile phone, mobile camera. Like that's stuff, 15 years ago probably wouldn't have dreamed of as possible. So I think there's still innovation that's happening along this front that we are still, trying to make up grounds for physical size differences. And that innovation will continue to happen. And I think in parallel, we're going to continue with this other path of innovation that we're solving or, solving problems or creating features that really do something totally unique that you wouldn't be able to do on your mirrorless camera on your shelf.
And I agree. I think, again, Michael and I have been both doing smartphone cameras for almost or over 10 years now, almost 10 years in my case. And so it's really interesting to have a conversation about the concept of a camera plateauing when I think I have not seen a pace of development this fast in cameras since, well, for a long time. And that's because a camera is a lot more than a sensor, and the AI is allowing us to solve what I wouldn't even have thought of as possible problems just 3 to 4 years ago. Not like hard problems. I would have thought those to be impossible problems. And so I see this enormous pace, and I think Pixel has done more than a fairly good job. To Michael's point, we've done I think a very good job of showing what software can do in imaging in the last decade. And now that we see what AI is doing, let me tell you, I feel really good working at Google because I don't know anywhere else you could find research teams of this caliber who are this comfortable working with large models, who developed the original transformer model concept, who are developing at the pace they are right now. It's an amazing place to be building cameras right now.
And kind of to that point, there's 4 of us here on the PetaPixel team, but one of us has touched and used the device. And Sarah, I found it really interesting when I watched your video. You said this is your first experience with a Pixel. So can you talk a little bit about like coming out from your first experience with it? What stood out to you compared to other smartphone photography you've done?
Yeah, definitely. So yes, it was my first time, but I think what I was not surprised by, but like pleasantly it felt like a good experience was that it did feel very much similar in terms of camera experience to using my iPhone, which is what I'm used to. So I think that in my head, I have this perception that anything other than using my iPhone as a camera is going to feel very different, whether it's Android or Google Pixel or Samsung, whatever it is. But I think what I really enjoyed about the Pixel was that it felt very much the same in the sense that, a lot of the quality, I don't know, it just felt like it was kind of smoother on video things. And again, the camera experience was very similar / had a lot more features that you can toggle through and kind of explore because there are so many different menus. And I think there was a lot more of a manual camera aspect that I had control over, definitely compared to my iPhone, which was very nice, coming from a photography background. But yeah, some of the features that I think really stood out to me with this new update specifically are definitely what Isaac and Michael have already talked about with Camera Coach. I think that was really fun. The first time Michael showed it to me, I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And there's a part of the video that some clip that I put in there of my face actually just being like, this is crazy. That was really fun for me. Again, not necessarily because I would be the primary user of something like that, but I think just being able to educate people in that tutorial setting with something so simple as your phone in your pocket is very cool. I think that is, like you guys mentioned, something that we have not really seen in the mobile or generally the camera industry. So I think it is really cool to have another resource like that for more people of the general public to understand basic photography principles and just understanding how to make a photo look better, because I personally get frustrated when I hand my phone to a stranger and I can never get a good photo out of it because they just don't understand how to take it. So something like this is
sorry about that.
Well, there was an instance in Austin where we handed our phone to someone to take a picture
Correct,
of us.
and it was horrible.
They just could not. They weren't thinking about framing at all.
We were in front of Black's Barbecue and we wanted the actual sign, and there was no sign to be found.
Yeah, we could have been standing in an alley. It made no difference.
It was a parking lot.
There was no context for that picture.
Yeah, so exactly that. Like, I think it'd be cool if I could have it loaded up on the screen already and then hand it to a stranger and they could actually just walk through the steps. And then I don't have to be surprised by the photo that I see that they took. Things like that were really cool. And then, yeah, also auto best take. Again, like, I think it's a very practical feature of something that everyone goes through. You take a group photo on an iPhone, people are always blinking, looking the wrong way. Like, I think it's really cool that it just happens automatically. Like, it's a setting that's just toggled on all the time. So automatically you can just get much better photos with little to zero effort applied. And I think those are just some of the coolest things that I found about the phone that, again, I have not had access to before. So I really appreciate the way that you guys are thinking about applying those AI features just to kind of, small quality of life improvements that actually make a huge difference when you really think about it, because no one else is really doing it. Yeah, those are my thoughts.
One of the surprising things about Camera Coach, by the way, is we originally did design it for beginners, like you described, to teach them the basic tips and tricks of taking good photos. But I actually there's a get inspired button there too.
Yes.
Which uses Gemini to well, what if you pose the scene this way? What if you reframed it that way? And that's actually helped me, even someone with more experience, just remind me to be creative and get in the creative mindset and get more out of photography, even as someone who is creative and can be creative on my own. It's got surprising impacts, not just on beginners.
No, I agree. I used that at one point when I was looking, we were at the vessel and I pointed it at the vessel and I clicked on get inspired, and it actually gave me a really cool option for like zooming in, using the tele lens to zoom in on the architecture of just one piece of the vessel. And I was like, that's actually something I would have thought to do myself, but like, it was a really cool reminder that even the phone knew to do that and it would be a good composition. So that was really cool too.
And I think Camera Coach is really fun because I think back to like teaching my mom computer skills, right? Where it's like she sits down at the computer, she struggles with something, and I'm like, okay, I'll do it for you. I'll teach you how to do it. And I walk through it. And then a week later, she asked me the same question. Where Camera Coach is basically like, we've empowered, users to go and walk through this workflow themselves, every single scene. And every single scene, they get different experiences because we take the input image from what's being framed into Gemini, and then we walk through kind of steps of, what are you thinking about? You want to get inspired? You want to go this direction? And it allows kind of like empowerment of learning right on device in a really meaningful way.
We've talked a lot of photography and Camera Coach and stuff like that, but I like my pictures moving. So what have you guys done for me this year? What are the exciting video features that I can look forward to when I get my hands on this thing?
It's a great question. So I think if we take a step back and we think about just let's talk about video strategy briefly in a similar context that we've talked about photo strategy as well, and ultimately our goal is to provide the best video possible, right? And we kind of have two paths on Pixel right now. One on-device video, fast capture, quick sharing, super high quality, but we also have that special mode, video boost, for the people that care about the highest quality possible. And we send raw video up to the cloud, gets run through our whole HDR plus imaging pipeline and sent back to you as the customer, fully processed, ready to share, edit, do whatever you want with it. And so ultimately the strategy is provide options, but ultimately be able to provide the best quality video possible. This year, with our upgraded OIS on our Pro main camera, combined with some improvements to our stabilization algorithms, we've really worked hard on providing the best image stabilization possible, especially through Video Boost in that sense. But, back to the cooking analogy, also like cooking and ingredients, like all these base things that we think about in terms of color, exposure, texture, tuning, all these things we look at and improve year over year, every year. And this year is no different in that sense. We've worked really hard to improve across all these video quality attributes. And we think you'll really love what you see once you get to take it out for a test run.
Can you give me any specific things? Like, is the timeline, when I do Video Boost, is that sped up on the latest model? What specifically, aside from the improved OIS, can I look forward to?
Yeah, so, year over year, I think last year we launched even quicker processing up in the cloud. And usually the limiting is not the cloud processing time, but like the upload and download time. So that's usually the limiting factor. In terms of just general capturing, you should just see more accurate auto white balance, better focusing strategies. We look specifically at even tracking and making some right decisions on as people turn away from the camera, or pet tracking and focusing on video as well. So we've implemented some new algorithms that look at better subject tracking and making some smarter decisions around focus in that sense.
Cool.
One of the things that Jordan consistently battles with on smartphones, and it's not just your smartphones, it's a variety of smartphones, is variable frame rate or variable...
variable frame rate.
Yeah, is that the best way to put it? It floats, right?
Yeah, well, all the time when we're using an external audio recorder, or I love using a phone as a second camera angle, especially like quick access to an ultra wide or something like that. But of course, it's variable frame rate. That's how H.265 compression works on so many of these devices, and they will drift. I would love to see an option to actually lock that at a specific frame rate for that purpose. I know I can do it with outside apps, but I'd love to see it natively because people are making that tough for me.
Is there some sort of limitation as to why that seems to be a consistent issue across camera brands?
I think before I give an answer, I want to ask, when you say lock frame rate, there's so many different things going on here. Are you talking about like a camera falling back to a lower frame rate to improve low light quality by letting more light in, or are you talking about like something else, like 20?
Yeah, the actual, for example, if I set my camera to 29.97 frames per second, if I'm using other recording equipment, it won't drift over time, where smartphones and a lot of other action cameras as well, depending on the amount of movement in the frame, will fluctuate the frame rate to keep the compression more efficient, but it totally screws me in those situations.
It's never really something that matters if you're only shooting video on that device because you never notice it. But as the second you try and pair it with something else, which has a locked frame rate, you'll start your mouth will be moving, but the audio just like moves around.
Interesting.
Even two of the same smartphone models, because I know we did like a Pixel where we were recording with two different Pixel phones, and they'd eventually fall out. It's a pet bugaboo of mine.
I'll tell you what. It's super, super hard to debug something about a camera verbally, because like once you see it, you go, "Oh, I know exactly what's going on there." But without seeing it, you almost have no idea. So I appreciate the feedback. It's actually very helpful that you're mixing, to know that you're mixing video and audio in that way. But I guess I want to follow up. Yeah. But as a general point, standalone cameras and smartphones do work very differently. I would call a standalone camera a real-time operating system, and I would call a smartphone an interactive operating system. And what that means is standalone cameras are pretty good at doing things every 30th of a second very consistently. Smartphones are very good at doing lots and lots and lots of things, opening different apps, running background syncs, basically running your life at the same time as they are cameras, at the same time as they are a safety device for you to be able to call 911 and receive phone calls from like your kids at school if they need to come home. They're just built very, very differently. That maybe that sort of different design philosophy explains a lot of the differences you see between standalone cameras and smartphones. For example, that's why we can connect to the internet and do things like Video Boost and Camera Coach, and that standalone cameras can't do. So it's this very formative trade-off that gave us things like HDR Plus and Super Res Zoom and Pro Res Zoom. But sometimes you end up with little quirks in other what I would call long tail behaviors that only matter in certain use cases for very select pieces of equipment for very select creator workflows.
And I do want to come back to your question about like other things to look forward to in video improvements as well. And with Video Boost and frame rates, we're also supporting 24 frames per second this year in Video Boost, which is awesome. I know there's a large group of people that will be very happy about that.
The superior frame rate.
I'm not looking to start wars here on this podcast.
Oh, we are.
I like 30.
And then... And then ultra wide too. So we brought now ultra wide, wide, and tele all available with Video Boost, 24 and 30 frames per second as well.
Nice.
Jordan, you had one more on here before I want to get to my next question. You should ask this one, your tasks.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just curious as someone who's done recently a lot of trips outside of cell service. This has become a much bigger issue for me than it was maybe a year ago, which is how much of the cool new stuff is being done on device and of some of the stuff that's already existed, like some of the cool editing tools and stuff like that. Have the number that can be done without a cell signal increased this year?
I think I'd say for the editing stuff, I'd rather you enjoyed your vacation and stayed off the grid.
No, I must remove the cloud that is distracting me.
No, I'm sorry. That's my point. I think save the editing for when you're back in service. Like focus on being in the moment. That's what we're
I got to
really
work
like
on that.
Yeah, Jaron.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah, because
We can't work while we're on these trips. I'm sorry. It's over. We're going to relax. Google says so.
And certainly, like Camera Coach is powered by Gemini, and that requires a server connection. But the stuff that you really need to know in the moment, like in the moment, I need to know right now, did I get the group photo? Before I let everyone walk away, because I'll never get them back there, Auto Best Take is fully on device. So you'll see that right there. Another example is the new portrait mode. We have a much, much more advanced portrait mode. We spent a lot of time on the hair in particular. That's still on device, right? You got to know right then that you nailed it. So I think the stuff that needs to be on device, we kept on device. The stuff that's like, let's do it later when I'm not like trying to go fishing right now. that can be server stuff.
It's as if he did research and knew exactly what Chris
has been watching our feeds.
I heard you had a good time though.
Yeah. So last question that we can wrap up on is, what is Google's approach to developing a mobile device on this annualized release schedule? Like, how do you balance the speed of that kind of timeline versus giving meaningful updates people will get like excited about? Because I feel like this is difficult for everyone, especially when you're doing it on an annualized schedule.
Yeah, I guess I'll shout out one general process thing, which is we have a large, like we're continually working on technologies. These technologies continually get better and better and better. And oftentimes we'll kind of slice off whatever technology seems to be ready at that point, and we'll productionize that. And so it's the productionization process that takes on the order of months. But there's a research process that takes years and years. Especially with the way AI is going, I don't actually find the annual cycle fast for AI. It's kind of slow for AI. AI is moving really, really, really quickly. So we're going out of our way, for example, to bring some of our software even back now. Like there was a recent update to Zoom on the Pixel 9 Pro smartphone because the software is just getting so much better, so much faster than it did before that we're just trying to get those out through the feature drops. I don't know if you guys are aware of feature drops, but we effectively do this big quarterly, I say quarterly, every 3 months. Sorry, business lingo got in my head too much. But these big feature updates every few months because the AI is just moving so fast. So I don't actually see the process as slow or as fast. I see it as slow in a sense. I'm not sure, Michael. Maybe you have more to say on like the hardware side. Perhaps.
Yeah, I think. I mean, the other thing is like the public might see the annual release, but there's a planning and process that like kind of to Isaac's point on the research side, but also thinking about silicon development or hardware development. I mean, we're looking many years out, right? So there's by the time it gets to us, like especially on the silicon on the hardware side, it's like, oh yeah, we've been talking about this for years. It's finally in front of us now, and we can start developing on this platform. But I joke about this, but camera development's never done. We're just told we have to put our pencils down and we can't work anymore. We have to to the customers, and that's really what it feels like. It's fast paced. There are a lot of innovations that are happening across the board. And ultimately, we have more ideas than we have, time to develop them. And so our bucket's, kind of overflowing with what we want to do. We don't feel like we've slowed down at all. To Isaac's point, like we've sped up and continuing to, put the right teams together and get this in a product nicely polished and innovated out to our users is just, it's fun to do. I mean, getting to go with Sarah on this photo walk where she hasn't used a Pixel before and kind of seeing her face light up as she gets to use some of these features for the first time, like that's what makes it worthwhile to go through, all this major development process.
Well, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. Chris and Jordan will be working on their review of that Pixel phone as forthwith is the best way I can put that. So we'll see what they have to say about it. But thank you so much for joining us, guys. We really like talking with you. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for bringing us on.
What great questions and answers. Oh my goodness, everyone.
There's more great questions that hopefully we have answers for, though.
Yeah, so you guys' review of the Pixel 10 series, most likely just the Pro, will be coming soon. I cannot give you the exact date, but just know that we're working on it. And now it's time for what have you been up to?
We've all been
we've
up
all
to the
been
same
up to
thing.
the same thing. Nice.
Go ahead, Chris.
Jaron looks exactly the same as you did 10 seconds ago.
We were in Alaska. We won't tell you exactly what the project we were working on was.
Because we're deceptive like that.
Because we're holding that a little bit close to the chest for now.
Right.
Just know that you won't have to wait long. We will be revealing what we were working on there in due time very soon. But we were in Alaska for, what was it, like 10 days? Jordan was in Portland because we were working on building out the camera systems we were using here and prepping at a local camera.
We can shout him out.
Nice.
Kerner
Yeah.
is incredible. A rental house there, amazing facility and wonderful people.
Yep.
So if you're going to go shoot a film in Portland, check them out. They rock.
They have
Yes.
another one in Seattle as well, as I understand it. So like they're the PNW's premier rental house for filmmaking.
Cool.
So, yeah. Great place.
We had a great time. We went on a grand adventure. Yeah, we could talk about our actual adventure. So we spent some time in Juneau. We hooked up with the boat company. It's a really cool outfit. They took really good care of us, and they took us from Juneau to Sitka, and we got to like really experience Alaska in its entirety. Yeah, look at that. There's the boat, the Listeron that we were on. Fantastic. Like, I cannot recommend that trip enough. But we were lucky enough to have their support to make it possible. And it really gives you a fantastic just overview of all that Alaska has to offer in the Southeast. And we saw glaciers, and we saw orcas, we saw humpback whales. Jaren's making me seasick right now. There was actually no seasickness. We were worried a little bit, like, oh, are we gonna have problems? No, it was great. It was just so good. The food was amazing. I caught, I don't know, between 4,600 and 5,300 fish. It was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll definitely explain more in the coming weeks. But just know that was the reason for you all having to put up with my dumb face.
Sorry.
And Sarah Tang's video, which was excellent.
And no
More of you
podcast.
should watch that. There aren't enough views on that video. Sarah did a great video about the photographing the sardine run in South Africa underwater. Really good video. You definitely should check it out. It's on the channel. You can ignore my 2 videos. None of those are very good. But definitely
stop.
watch hers.
Wow.
Jeez.
Look,
Those
man,
goggles are making you crazy.
He's wearing
I
his
don't know what-
self-deprecation goggles today.
Yeah, I don't know
That's
what
what those
you're
actually
exactly.
are.
Nope. All right. With that, we're going to move on to tech support and never read the comments. They're kind of mushed together now because there are some comments in here and there are some never read the comments as well. So let's do a speak pipe from Georgie.
Hey, PetaPixel, Georgie from Germany here. What do you guys think about the current state of bridge cameras? They seem to be forgotten as a category, but I see them as a perfect hybrid between smartphones and pro cameras. Kind of like how camcorders used to fill a niche. I feel if somebody made a modern, high-quality bridge camera with excellent video capabilities, it could be a game changer for beginners. What do you guys think about that?
This is an interesting question because I think like Jordan and I sort of have mixed. We're diametric opposites, actually.
Yes. I'll get on my soapbox after you're done.
Yeah. Well, let's just say I feel like I like bridge cameras. Jordan's going to make it like I hate them and I want them all to die. And that's not the case. They died on their own. And I think for a good reason. It's like, there's no more dinosaurs anymore, but it's awesome to read about them. They're really cool. Let's make a movie about bridge cameras where bridge cameras escape and get onto the mainland. Awesome. But they're gone, right? They're done. And there's a good reason for that. And I just feel like they're inherently unsexy. They do have smaller sensors. Like, I don't know. I just feel
defining a bridge camera. So it's not a point and shoot, but it's not an ILC.
It's got point and shoot
the
image
classic-
quality.
Is
It's
it
got
not
manual
this?
control. No, it's got a giant lens. So we're talking something
so
with
it
a very
has
long
Huge
zoom
zoom,
range.
small chip is
So
kind of
that's
the
what it has
general
to be. It
answer.
has to be a zoom lens to be considered a bridge.
Yes.
And we'll pretty much always have a small sensor to accommodate that big zoom lens without the
Yeah,
camera being the size of an SLR, right?
Right.
So it's basically a point and shoot with a super zoom lens that's uglier and bigger for no good reason and has manual control, right? Like I would argue that like the compact Panasonic LX, like 100 or whatever, like not 100, the LX10, the one that had the big zoom, those cameras were bridge cameras,
Oh,
but
like
they were
ZSs?
pocketable and sexy. Yeah, like ZSs. Yeah, ZS 100 and stuff like that, right?
Okay.
We're talking similar sensor sizes, big zoom lenses, manual control.
I think
know.
it needs to be hideous. You have to be ashamed to have
Yeah.
it out in public. I think
So
that's
like
an
the
essential.
Nikon P1000, P1100, whatever we're at now,
Sure.
that's a bridge camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a bridge camera.
And it's heinous.
And it's popular
But-
because the zoom range is insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. The
it's
Nikon
pop-
series thing.
Let's say though, it's popular with what?
You shush.
Amateur wildlife photographers, birders, and flat earthers. That's like not a huge subsect of the photographic world.
Okay, here's my counter argument on that is if you want big reach, that's something your smartphone doesn't do well. Despite, the new features on the Google, small chip with a big optical zoom will still outperform those. That's something we tested when we brought out that little ZS 99 that we tested the other year. The other thing to remember is, like we said, you said the bridge camera's dead, but it's worth pointing out one of the few cameras that Panasonic re-released recently is their bridge camera. I believe it was the FZ80 that they did an updated version with USB-C for the European markets. I believe because outdoor sports and amateur wildlife are the two big niches where there's still nothing to really plug that gap. And that's why I think these cameras are
Right.
still relevant. The other thing to remember is those are areas where modern advances in autofocus and video are a big deal. And that's why I really think whoever makes a current bridge camera with like state-of-the-art video and autofocus, like if Sony revisits their RX10 series, I think would be extremely popular for that particular audience. I don't think it's a huge audience like it used to be, but
That's
I
the
do
problem.
think there's reason for this kind of camera to exist, and I think companies would be very surprised if they did bring out a current model.
Yeah. If they came out with fast scanning sensors and they put some computational technology in there and better tracking autofocus and stuff, yeah, it would be appealing, but the market is small. Not many people want them. As you mentioned, they are hideous by nature. They are.
Yep.
Like no one's going to stroll down the streets with one around their shoulder unless they're like super confident in themselves. So it's like I just don't think there's a market for it. I honestly don't. I think Micro Four Thirds does a great job of covering the more advanced capabilities there. So I don't know. They had their time. You're like a geneticist trying to rekindle a lost species, and that never ends well, Jordan. So you need to stop your maddening, your crazy, just horrible.
It's true. I'm putting my grandchildren in
disrespectful,
jeopardy.
Yeah, just because we
hubris.
could. We never stopped to ask if we should.
Exactly. Thank you, Malcolm.
All right. Next one is an email from Ryan Adams. Probably not that Ryan Adams.
No,
Just
maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Just wanted to say thanks for all the awesome content the whole team at PetaPixel produces. PetaPixel is one of my daily sources for all things photography. You're welcome. We're happy to hear it. We're heading to Japan next month for the first
Lucky.
time and visiting many of the big cities and quote-unquote tourist spots. I'm taking my Z8, of course. I did that for you, Chris, Zed. But not so sure I would want to juggle multiple lenses the whole time we're there. What would you guys recommend for Japan? Would something like the Tamron 35-150 f2.8 be a good fit, or would Nikon's 28-400 travel zoom be a good compromise, or something else entirely? Those are actually two lenses that I think you actually like, Chris, right?
Both are nice. I would say I never. I mean, again, everybody's going to be different. Like my mind is going to the 35-150. That's an awesome lens. I think that'd actually be a really nice walk around Japan lens.
I don't think you need the 400.
Yeah, you don't often need a super telephoto at the tourist spots or within the cities where you're in tight quarters. Although there are some situations
for
where it'd be
super
nice.
telly.
No.
Yeah, never hurting for super telly. But like a 150 is nice. There's a lot of times you want to isolate something in like the cityscape and not get the whole thing. I would want something wider though as well, for sure. There are some opportunities for some cool wide shots, but Japan is actually one of those countries you can really nicely rock like 3 prime lenses and do really good. Like it's pretty cool. It's pretty
If
cool.
you only want one lens, that 35 to 150.
That 35
150
150 rocks.
Solid.
And yeah, grab like a little pancake wide angle and you'll be so happy.
I don't know. I think if I was going there, I would take the 24 to 120 f4. It's a great zoom lens.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
that would be
120 is really good.
That would be my choice. The Z8 can handle some higher ISO. F4 is not going to be critical. And then take like a small bright prime for when you need it for low light shooting.
Yeah, you've used that 24 to 120 a lot and gotten some spectacular results across a variety of situations.
Yeah,
So,
I just
lens.
feel like having that wide angle in Japan's a little bit nicer.
I mean, I've
as much
only
as I
shot
love
it-
the Tamron.
I've shot
Yeah.
it entirely on 35 and been completely happy. So,
Sure. Well, there you go. But, nobody's perfect.
All right, next one is an email from Farhat Jah. I have to write and say that I'm loving the open-minded nature of the PetaPixel on YouTube.
Oh, yeah,
Jordan
yeah.
and Chris bring a sense of fun and science to a subject that could be for nerds. Well done. Hey, just, good job, guys.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
We got a merch message from Kai, K-I, I think.
Define a merch message.
So if you purchase something from us on the PetaPixel merch store, our shop, you can also send us a message.
25% off for members.
That's right. You can do that when you at the point of purchase. You can send a comment, and our publisher sends them to me. So here's what Key wrote. Talk about a small sensor camera. I'm a big fan of the Pentax Q system. It is very tiny. It takes decent photos. It has a full range of lenses. It has internal flash and a working hot shoe. And I think it would be the very first camera with a dial to switch picture styles. All of these features really make a lot of sense, especially now. I own 3 Pentax Q bodies. The internal batteries are all dead. I need a reset date, and every time I change, it happens every time I change the battery. It's a bit of a pain, but I really hope Pentax can bring this system back. Do you guys agree?
Q is cute. It's with a Q. It's it's a fun camera. We've played with it in the past. I like it. I think it would probably do well if given a rehash. It's probably one of those cameras that's still popular in Japan. You know what I mean? Like I don't know the current state of the.
What's the
Pentax
sensor
Q.
size of that thing?
Tiny.
The biggest they ever made was, I believe, a type 1 over 1.7.
Yeah.
So
That
itty
sounds
bitty
right.
sensors on those guys. Now, that said, the
Adorable
quality
lenses.
of those small sensors has improved dramatically because the Q was before, like, basically smartphones. They were pretty rudimentary when that camera came out. So it could certainly shoot a lot faster, be able to do maybe some image stacking, which is something Pentax does do. And it would be cool. I did like some of the lenses for that, especially their like super bitty telephoto was so cute. It looked like a little stick of chapstick.
Chapstick.
A chapstick zoomer, man.
Yeah,
it
I'm
was
looking
great.
at pictures of this. This sensor, that's small. That's like what?
Yeah.
A thumbnail, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah, smaller than that maybe. They're small, but like it's cute. Changeable lenses is fun. Little manual controls, like that stuff's super popular now. So I'm sure they could.
Unfortunately, by the time
Will they?
Yeah, by the time
I wonder
Pentax
if
spins up
KH could get
manufacturing,
me a Q.
I looked.
I mean, I
there's
want
no Qs in
Pentax to
stock
do
right
like
now.
5 different things that they're not doing, right? Like,
Release a camera.
I don't know, man.
You're gonna get a GR4 and you're gonna like it.
Am I?
That's all you get. That's it. All right. A couple more. Michael in Vancouver emails, Chris, presumably you have read, and read more than one time, Norman MacLean's classic A River Runs Through It. I hope so. Anyway, have you seen and or gotten your hands on a used or near new copy of the hardcover version which features woodcuts by Barry Moser? I just found one at a used bookstore in Vancouver, and it's beautiful and maybe one of the most beautifully designed books on fishing ever. I don't fish, but if I did, I would fly fish, and this book is the reason why. From Michael.
Very cool. I do not have a copy of A River Runs Through It. Of course, the movie is
Christmas just got easy.
Yeah. The movie is quintessentially famous for bringing a lot of people into the fly fishing world. It was kind of like the Top Gun for fly fishing. Jaron saw it.
That's what
gives
the
it
box art says.
Yeah,
Top Gun for fly fishing.
yeah, like Top Gun for fly fishing. It's true. And I like the story. It's an interesting story. I've got a lot of books here on fly fishing. I prefer my John Gierrich's.
He's leaning back into the office. There he goes.
The late John Gierrich, fantastic writer, super funny actually, which is really cool. But he's a great storyteller when it comes to fly fishing. So I like his stuff.
We're off mic again.
Yeah, I think you can barely
like his
hear
stuff.
Hear him say that he
I know.
likes
I'm
it.
reaching back.
You'd think you were interviewing someone at Build.
Oh my gosh!
Wait, so is this
So
the same
nice.
guy who, for the books that I tried to get you for Christmas last year, but had a difficult time acquiring?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay,
Never mind
but John Gierrich, I have the whole collection, and it's really good stuff.
All right. Last
There's
one.
the book. There's the book you want. Barry
Alberta's
Mitchell's Alberta's Trout Highway.
Good book.
They did one edition and never redid it. I don't know why. One or two editions at most, and they're like super expensive now. That's the
Last one for this week.
You can't have it.
He doesn't fly fish, but if he did, he would fly fish. All right. This is from Will, another email. Would you all consider a video series on understanding log footage? I'm a professional photographer trying to learn video and have been down a rabbit hole after rabbit hole trying to understand all of this stuff. I just shoot an N-Log, but in Premiere Pro, I can't use it. Now I've reshot in ProRes RAW, but it looks like garbage.
I think he meant NRAW.
Probably. LUTs don't make sense to me because they're so harsh. I don't understand Rec 709 and Rec in 2020. All of this stuff is just beyond my grasp. Thanks. Quite honestly, there's probably a bunch I could still learn from you, Jordan, if you were to make a video about grading video footage. Because quite honestly, yeah, it's not easy to explain succinctly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. It would require a full video for that. I mean, the big thing to remember is if you're looking at raw video footage, that is unprocessed. So it's going to require noise reduction and sharpening and lens corrections all applied to it, stuff your camera does automatically. So if you don't need maximum flexibility, there's not really a quality benefit to shooting raw video. You are getting a flexibility benefit in terms of how much you can do in post. But shooting log gets you most of the way there. The problem with it is it's different workflows for different editing suites. So, it would be individual tutorials. I use Final Cut for most of my work. DaVinci Resolve works very well with log footage, but it's definitely worth knowing just to give you expanded dynamic range and plenty of flexibility in post. It's almost never that I'm like, oh, my white balance was so far off. I wish I'd shot this raw, or, the colors are oversaturating so much. It's extremely rare. So I find log is a good workflow for most things, but there are plenty of tutorials for individual workflows out there. But essentially, it's an image with no saturation and very little contrast, so you can push and pull it in whichever direction you want.
Great. I don't have a feel-good story of the week this week. I think the feel-good story is that the podcast is back. We're here. I hope you enjoyed us. That's all for this week. Thanks for joining.
We're happy to be
I have
back.
nothing else.
Thank you all. We're going to have a happy tree over here. And we're just
Bye,
gonna
bye,
paint the
bye, bye,
bird
bye.
in the happy tree. And
Yeah.
I wish you all the best, and we'll see you soon.
Was that
Lots
our
of good
strongest
fun.
closing ever, Jaron?
Yeah, it was just peaceful and calm. Yes, my dog is asking me if I can let him out of my office now. So that's going to do it. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. We'll catch you next week. Get a PetaPixel
Bye.
membership. Bye.